You are listening to Become a Guitarist Today podcast with Adam Roach.
Hey there, and welcome to episode number 168 with my guest today, Kee Marcello, who used to play in the band called Europe. So Kee has actually got a new album out called Out of This World, which we discuss about in today's podcast. Now, as well as talking about the album, Kee also gives us a great lesson on writing great melodies and hooks. And he also informs us on a guitarist that, personally, I've never heard of before, but I'm sure other people have. His name's Ollie Halsall. The band's called Pato, so like an early 70s band. The Ollie is just incredible. Now, before we do go to interview, thank you again to my sponsors, so Arnaud Krakowka and Custom Guitar Picks. So thank you both once again. Now make sure you stay tuned. I've got lots of great guests coming up over the next couple of weeks. I have all the way from America, Juno DeVere. She's an amazing guitarist. I have classical guitarist Daniel Nestico, who's actually been on the podcast once before. But in this podcast, we break down the difference between the classical guitar and the electric guitar. So it's a really good insight to the different types of instruments. And I also have the one and only Zach Wilde from the Ozzy Osbourne Band and also Black Label Society to talk about his new album called Doom Crew Inc. Now, a lot of the podcasts I'm doing this year will be also available on my YouTube channel as well. So you can also check out the videos on the YouTube channel as well. So let's go over this interview now with Kee Marcello. All right, well, I must say congratulations with the new album, so entitled Out of This World.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah, we had so much fun doing this, It's been pure joy, actually.
And so you wrote all the songs, didn't you? Was it except for one, maybe?
Yeah, I wrote this up this time. I'm expecting on the next album, Tommy will be more involved in the songwriting. He's a great writer too, but I was just so full of inspiration. Plus, I had a time on my hands because of the COVID sedation. That was the only positive thing coming out of this pandemic bullshit. So I could just more or less, and I have the studio in my house, so I could more or less just sit and work my ass off 24/7, which I did. I just turned the phone off and locked the door, told the family I'm going to be a bit busy, and it worked out.
Amazing.
I think they were kind of glad to get a break from me, to be quite frank.
Go to your cave.
It worked out. To get rid of that bastard. It worked out for the best, and the only song, with the 10th song, the one I didn't write completely by myself, was actually meant for Easy Action, and written back in 2007 or 8, perhaps.
Okay.
And it's written by me and the lead vocalist and drummer of Easy Action. It never happened, that album, so I figured this song, I always liked that song, that would work for us, and we tried to make a new take on it because it was really in the vein of Easy Action, but we tried to do something different with it. It was Tommy's idea to come up with a tapping pattern, like a hook in the beginning of Not Tonight, and that worked out really well. It gave it its own identity, and obviously Tommy's amazing singing takes it somewhere else, So
no, he sounds great. I mean, you all sound great on this album, but his voice suits the music down to a T.
Yeah, I'm really happy about it. And enormous thing, for the end result was having Ron Nevison mix it all. It was the first time I worked with him for 33 years, actually. Wow. He mixed that Europe album back in 1988, and me and Tommy were talking about who's going to mix this once we were getting to the point where we needed to mix the album. It was almost finished, the recording. And we tried a couple of modern guys out, and we didn't like it at all. I mean, now, don't get me wrong, but a lot of new material that comes out nowadays, the mixing engineers seem to be so focused on compressing and limiting everything. So it's like flatlining, and I'm not interested to hear what the lead vocalist had for breakfast. I want to hear some dynamics, I hate it when it's, in your face. I want to hear dynamics, ups and downs, lights and shadows.
Yeah.
What the fuck happened to all that?
Yeah.
That's what music is all about, I think, And
yeah, for sure.
And we spoke on the phone about this, me and Tommy, and he said, well, Ron, call him. And as it happens, I kind of kept contact a bit. So I called him. He lives now in the state of Washington.
Okay.
In a house up in the mountains where he has his studio, still working as always. And I said, I have a project. I think you would do great. It's right up your alley. And he said, okay, being very generous, he said, send me a track on Dropbox. Send me all the files. I gave it a shot. I'll send the mix back to you. If you like it, let's do something. If you don't worry,
Yeah.
Which was amazing. So he did a mix of Twilight,
Yep.
and he sent the mix back to all of us, and it totally blew our minds. It was just exactly what we wanted out of this album. And then with some magic changing around in calendars and all that, we got it to mix the entire album. I'm so proud of that because that's a big, big part of the sound of the whole thing,
Oh, 100%.
Ron Nevison's mix it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he did an amazing job.
Yeah. He's got some track record too. When you go to his website and you read his track record, you either believe which is the truth, one of the biggest producers in the world, or you think he's a pathological liar.
Yeah.
Because it's unbelievable the stuff he did. Led Zeppelin, The Who, Chicago, Meatloaf, Heart, different styles of music as well. And unbelievable.
Yeah,
such experience and wisdom he can bring to a project. He really did on this one.
And didn't you do like Kiss and Ozzy as well?
Yeah, Kiss and Ozzy.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting the biggest ones. But he did so much,
Yeah, that's incredible.
Great. Yeah. If the Corona thing, if the COVID thing lightens up a bit, it would be nice to actually work together for the second album. It would be lovely to drag his ass over to Black Rock Studios in Santorini or something like that in Greece. That would be nice. We'll see what happens. He's just a master of finding everything in its right place because it's really hard to make a final mix to make sense. There's a lot of stuff competing with each other, and you have to make decisions, like old school. You have to keep your hands on the mixing table, and you just do that, and you have to work the mix. It's not as easy as just putting it down and putting compressors and limiters on.
No.
If it would be that easy, anybody could do it. Which is what people think right now.
Yeah.
They think that anybody can mix an album, but that's just not the case.
No. Exactly. Yeah, like I say, this album I just did, pretty much did it all here. I sent it to a guy in France, Arnaud Krakowka, his name is, and he did all the mixing and mastering there. I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
There's no way I could have got that sound here.
Yeah, it's such a big difference, I think. That's why I never mix. I produce stuff, but I refuse to mix because you need somebody that really knows that, and it's not me. I know I know other stuff,
Yeah. So going to some of the tracks, so your first single, Hanging On, which is a great song and great melodic solo as well, which, I mean, all your solos I love. I just love your melodic playing in the solos, like you can actually hum them. It's not like just 1,000 notes. I mean, you have some of that in there, but, they're very nice solos.
Yeah, well, I like to keep it melodic, and it's always been my thing to have a melodic substance to the solos. I mean, if anybody can just shred away, but what's the point in that? And I told this story a lot of times, but I read in Guitar Player magazine just prior to going to London to record an album with Europe. I was living in the Bahamas at the time, and I had a prescription of Guitar Player magazine, and I read an article about Pat Martino, a jazz guitar player, monster. Really good player, and it was about him, but he was taking a walk on Manhattan and he bumped into Mr. Les Paul, you know.
Yeah.
Les Paul was amazing. He came up with a lot of stuff like multi-track recording. It wasn't for him. That wouldn't exist. And he was a really accomplished session musician and toured actually until his death 10 years ago. Very melodic player as well. And Pat approached him. He didn't know him, but he came up to Mr. Les Paul and said, "Oh, Mr. Les Paul, I'm a huge fan." And Les Paul recognized him and he said, "Hey, Pat, you're great. You sure play a lot of notes, but does your mother recognize you on the radio?"
Oh, really?
Motherfucker. What a statement. And, you know, with that in my mind, I went to record this album, which also proved me right, because melodies is king.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's going to, you know, walk down the street humming on. Not that way it works. It's, they're going to, you know, the big melodies.
Yep.
That's what they're going to remember in the whole thing. And then you can mix it up with shredding, because obviously shredding is fun.
Yeah.
It's exciting. But I use it as a trampoline to upheave the melodic parts, you know, if you wish. But Hanging On is a great song, like a simple chorus. We thought it would be a wise first single choice to show off the band. The great drummer, Darby Todd, he used to be in the Darkness. He played with Gary Moore and everybody. He plays on Devin Townsend's new album. He can do any style. My favorite drummer. I try to involve in everything I do. Ken Sandin, originally in the band Alien, a big band here in Scandinavia and of course in Japan. Yep. And Tommy Hart, the vocalist from Fair Warning, amazing vocalist. Also had a beautiful career namely in the EU and Japan. It's just a marriage made in heaven, really. And it started off with us, me and Tommy working on an unrelated project called Key of Hearts. And we really found each other. And I introduced him while I played the festival in Milano, in Italy, with Kee Marcello band, which Darby and Ken, you know, are the rhythm section in. Yeah. And so we got to meet all the four of us. And that was really important for all of us to get to know each other and to hang for 2 or 3 days and talk about music, where we want to go with our music, you know, our experiences and all that. And then we actually did a gig, and I called Darby and Ken to join us, and we rehearsed in Gothenburg, Sweden, a couple of days before this festival. The festival is actually where we recorded the live album as well, the live tracks.
I was going to ask you about that, so yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it's in Ludwigsburg, the Heat Festival. Okay. But, okay, let's back the tape. Back in Gothenburg, in Top Floor Studios, we rehearsed for this festival. With this lineup, it was easy as pie. You know, we had the set down in no time. We played the songs a couple of times and realized we have a lot of time over here, you know. So I told the guys, hey, you know, I have 3 new songs. Why don't we try them out in the studio? I mean, it's a studio. What could be the harm? What could be the harm of it? So we did. And before the night was over, we have recorded 3 basics. The 3 first songs we recorded were In a Million Years, Twilight, and Lighting Up My Dark. Yep. And I think then and there is when the band was born. We didn't have the band name yet. It came later. But the actual band was born there. And then we went on a couple of days later to do the Heat Festival in Ludwigsburg. After that, we felt this is a band. You know, let's just continue doing this. And so we finished off the 3 first songs. And the original plan was to do a crowdfunding campaign, you know, which we did. But in the midst of that, our manager heard from labels in Japan that were interested in listening to these 3 tracks. So we got interest all of a sudden from 3 labels in Japan. Wow. And we chose JVC Victor because, one, I worked with JVC Victor in Europe, and they did a great job for us. And And after that, I did a couple of other projects on JVC. So it felt like the home label for us. And it did amazingly well. They did a great job. We were number one on the album charts and pretty much dominated the album charts from April when it was released, you know. So really happy about the result in Japan. And obviously we wanted, since we sort of officially released it in Japan, we wanted to do the same in the rest of the world. And we heard about Atomic Fire.
Yeah.
We also knew that we had to wait for 9 months before they could actually start releasing stuff, you know. So we had to keep that secret, basically.
Yeah.
We had a vow of silence because nobody was supposed to know about it until they went public with it. But we thought that was the right choice. This is the label for us, Atomic Fire. So that's what we did. So now in January, it's the first time it's released in the rest of the world. And we're really excited about it.
I'd say my favourites would have to be, I mean, they're all great, but I really love the Warrior.
Great, yeah.
Because I'm a huge Van Halen fan, and just gave me a bit of a Van Halen vibe to it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first of all, it's an Alex Van Halen groove.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's a Billy Cobham groove.
Okay, yeah.
You know, from Spectrum, the album Spectrum. I think he was the first one I ever heard do this groove at that speed, you know. But and Alex Van Halen, I know, being a Billy Cobham fan, picked it up and they did it with the band. But it's such a beautiful groove, and I always wanted to do something with that. And during sound checks with Kee Marcello band, Darby would just start playing that groove, and I came up with this riff.
Okay.
And we would jam on that for hours sometimes if we had time. And Darby said, "Why don't you write a song about that? That riff is great." And I said, okay, that's a good idea. So when I had the time during the pandemic, I came up with the chorus and the verse, and then we had a song. Yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that. I know a lot of people think, oh yeah, he has his biggest influence is Ed Van Halen, but that's not really true. If you listen to a guy called Ollie Halsall, I don't know if you ever heard about him, from the British band Pato, he was doing this kind of legato stuff, which I think Eddie listened to Ollie as well, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
Back in the early 70s, he was an amazing player. I think that's by far my biggest inspiration. So for all you guitar players out there, check out the British band Pato, P-A-T-T-O, and their guitar player Ollie Halsall, amazing guitar player. The inventor of a lot of techniques. He was good friends with Alan Holsworth, which you might have heard of. And they were in the same band for a short while. Oh, wow. I have some recordings of that, but that was almost overkill. You know, it was like complete nuclear destruction. If you have two guitar players of that magnitude, it's not pleasant to listen to. So that was a fun song, and it's actually a bit of a different track from the rest of the album. But it was fun to have. It's fun to have something that's a bit different, and that also is going to work really well live. Yeah, it will. I mean, it's one of those tracks you're dying to play live. You know, as soon as this COVID situation is over, we definitely do that.
Well, I was going to say it actually reminded me of a live song to listen to, because I don't think there's no overdubs, is there? When you're doing your solos, just bass and the guitar, is that right?
Yeah. That's an interesting aspect you're talking about. Leaving, instead of putting rhythms during the solos. Yeah. But it's an 80s thing too, because you didn't want to lose the power. I had numerous debates about that, whether to leave the solo alone, you know. I'm still struggling with myself if that's a good idea or not, you know. Yeah. But in a way, from a guitar player's point of view, it's better because you get more space. Exactly. You know, you have the whole spectrum to yourself. So we'll see what happens on the next album. I liked it on The Warrior anyway, you know. Yes. Thoroughly enjoyed the other albums too. And And my God, we got to have Don Airey playing on 4 of the tracks.
Yeah.
It was just amazing. I know Don for a long time. I met him with Neil Murray in 1987. I knew Neil Murray from before, and he came to the show. We did 2 nights with Europe at the Hammersmith Odeon.
Okay.
He came with Neil Murray, and I was so impressed because I was a huge fan, or am a huge fan of his stuff in everything he did, obviously. But Colosseum 2 with Gary Moore playing the guitar. I just love the fusion stuff they were doing. And we played a little bit over the years, and we wanted to do something together, but never really found the opportunity until now. So I sent him some tracks, and I talked to him over the phone and said, I believe this is right up your alley. Tell me what you think. And he said, fuck yeah, let's rock. And he played on 4 of the tracks, and I'm so happy he did. He really put this Don Airey dimension to it.
So when you write your songs, do you write the key parts as well, or just the guitar parts and bass?
Yeah, I am the keyboard player. I am a keyboard player as well. I always play keyboards on my demos and on my solo albums and all that. But I'm a guitar player, but I use keyboards as a songwriting tool and arrangement tool, since I always produce the stuff I do too. So it comes in really handy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, it's really
but I cannot play like Don Airey. As a matter of fact, only Don Airey can play like Don Airey.
Yeah, that's right.
Still you kept it in the back of your mind, in case that one day you could choose me. Now I'm tired of waiting. Please let me know. So tell me.
The other song I want to talk about is that Ain't Gonna Let You Go. Another great song, one of my other favourites.
Oh, great.
Just the great, backing vocals, everything on that one. It's sound great. So are you doing a lot of backing vocals on that? Is that Tommy?
When I write the songs, I always arrange the background vocals.
Okay.
And I do them all. And then I send stems to Tommy and Ken, and they put their background vocals on as well. So it's really fat.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's all 3 of us singing 3 or 4 harmonies, so there's together it's like a meat synth. That's what we call it.
Yeah.
It's the real deal. Yeah, I love the sound of our background vocals. It's really a big part of the band sound, I would say.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like I said, especially in that song, it really stands out.
Thanks a lot.
Now, I can't wait to see you guys live. Hopefully get down to Australia one day when it opens up.
Oh, absolutely. I would love to. I mean, right now, the COVID situation doesn't allow any touring at all. But, I mean, since we're number 1 in Japan, it's a no-brainer to go there and tour. And that's not that far away from Australia and New Zealand, right? So we might as well go over there then. We definitely have it in mind. We want to go over there. And the sooner the better. Nice chatting to you, mate. And hope to see you in Australia soon.
For sure, definitely. I'll be there.
All right. Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks, Kee. See you later.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.